Okay, yes, I am John Mallington. I live in Scotland. I've been using VBA now for over 20 years, along with various other languages. Worked for large IT corporates until a few years ago, and then freelancing since then, and recently made an MVP. I'm here to talk about VBE Extras, which is more interesting than me. VBE Extras is an add-in for the VBE, the Visual Basic Editor. It provides extra functionality for the VBE, hence the name. And it was really the basic nature of the VBE that frustrated me enough to try and make it a little bit more like Visual Studio. Visual Studio being the tool that I use to write C# code in, which is what I do when I actually create VBE extras. My primary focus is on other tools, but VBE extras does work in Access, which is handy. That's why we're here today. And why the specific functionality in VBA extras? Just because I needed it, I wanted it. I spend my day creating VBA code. I wanted to be able to do that much more quickly and efficiently. When I developed VBA extras, I started with what I call the declaration and references engine. In other words, for any reference, I wanted to know what the declaration was, and for any declaration, I wanted to know what all the references were. And that allowed me to then develop things like the rename command and the highlight command. And much of that or functionality I covered in Access DevCon last year. So today I'm talking more about or focusing more on the new functionality that's been released in the last 12 months. How to get VB Extras, the link is there on the screen. It comes with a 60-day free trial of all the functionality. Some functionality is free beyond that trial period, but if you want the full functionality, you then have to pay $30 a year for a license or $50 for 2 years. One license works across all the host applications that VB Extras works in, as well as Access. And one license also works across all your devices, as long as you use the same username. This slide, right, okay, I appreciate that people won't be able to read all of the content on this slide, and that's not really the idea that you would. It's to give you an idea of the scope, the number of commands that VB Extras provides. There's actually 86 different commands on this slide. The colouring, the green items are the ones I'm going to focus on today if I get time. I've got limited time, might not get through them all. But the items highlighted green, there's 9 of them there. Those are the new commands. The blue and yellow highlighting is to help explain how VB Extras is different or similar in some cases compared to MZ tool or MZ tools. Items highlighted blue are similar to MZ tools, and yellow is the same. And so what you can see from that hopefully is that there is some overlap, but it's a little bit of overlap. And generally what my tool provides is discrete and different from MZ tools. And just to point out, there's a few commands that actually don't work in Access. There's some things that are specific to Word or Excel, the other host applications, and those items are in red. But you can see the majority of the functionality is available in Access. So of the new functionality, this is a breakdown of that. And I will try and get through much of this today. So we can store and restore the cursor location when the application is open and or when the VBE is reopened. We can add Windows API declarations to your modules. We can use the F1 key to view Windows API web pages, the Microsoft documentation web pages, which you can't do natively from the VBE. We can create enums from a group of constants and the reverse enum to constants. We've got alternative VB window navigation keys. You can expand and contract the selection. You can copy code as HTML. You can fix the case, and there's some enhancements there that I probably won't get to during this demo. That's that. Enough about all of that. So what I'm going to do next is just show you, obviously we're now in the VBE. You can see that VB Extras is loaded because you've got these menu items. There's a main menu here with a whole series of commands. There's a menu in the project window. There's a menu in the immediate window, and there's a menu in the code pane, as well as all the menus. Oh, there's menus in user forms as well if you're using user forms. It's got its own toolbar here, which you can customize and add different commands to. Um, so the new functionality I wanted to go through, the first thing I wanted to demonstrate is storing and restoring the cursor location. And the key thing for this is I often find that I come back the next day or a little bit later, I've closed down and I've reopened the VBE and I'm wondering where on earth was I working on my code. So if I make it a little bit easier to see where my cursor is or the selection actually at the moment, you can see I've selected that word there, the debug word. And if I close the VBE and close access and then reopen the same database and open the VBE, you will see that I get a dialog and it says it found a saved cursor location for this particular project, tells me where it is and asks me, do I want to go to it? And yes, I do. And just to show that that wasn't a fluke, I'll just select some different text there. Close and close. Reopen. Go to the VBE. Again, we've got the dialog, save cursor location has been found. Do I want to go to it? Yes. Okay, just saving time. The next piece of functionality to show you is about Windows API declarations and how VB Extras can help you add Windows API declarations. So if I execute that command, then we get this dialog showing. And what you can see here is that we've got a list of currently 2,364 Windows API functions and subs in this case. It does also contain details on enums types and constants. Obviously here you can filter. So that's knocked it down to 371 of the total. You can control how that filter works. So you can filter by the declaration name, the description of the declaration. The description comes from the Microsoft web pages for each Windows API declaration. There's examples which I'll talk about a little bit more in a moment. You can filter by the library name, and for types and enums, you can filter by the member name as well. The columns here that we've been shown, obviously there's the type of the declaration, the majority are functions. Obviously there are some subroutines included as well. You can see the bitness here, majority are both, but some functions are specific to either 32 or 64-bit. The W column is telling you whether there's a wide equivalent to an ANSI declaration. In the name and code columns, you also always see the ANSI declaration, but you can choose to add the wide variant. I'll show you that in a second. You can see when I leave my mouse pointer over a particular name of a declaration that you can see the description. Apologies, it's a little bit small, that tooltip, but on my screen you can clearly see the description there. And if I move across to the code column, then you can see the full declaration that will be added, in this case with both a VBA7 and a pre-VBA7 declaration. When you add to your code, you've got various options down here in these drop downs where you can choose whether you want to add both a VBA7 and an older version or just VBA7. I mentioned about the wide or ANSI, so you can select whether you want one of those, whether you want your strings to be long pointer or actual string, and so on. So various options that you can choose. We also remember the last declarations that have been added. So if you need to add the same declaration again, then you can do. So I'll show you actually adding a declaration, one of the most common ones here. If I just tick that, and I've got the add button down here, there's various options that you can choose. You can add it to the clipboard if you would rather, or to a text file. In this case, I just want to add it to the module. So if I click add, then you can see here now I've got the find window declaration under there. I will reopen. Using the get title bar info, not quite as common a declaration to use, but the reason for doing this is to show you another feature. Often with Windows API declarations, what you find is that one declaration is dependent on others. With functions, you often find they're dependent on types or enums or constants, and this is the case for this particular function here. So if I put a tick in here as I'm going to add this, you'll see that it identifies the fact that this particular function is dependent on 3 of the declarations, 2 types and a constant. Would I like to add them? Yes, sounds like a good idea. If I then click add, and you can see in my module, I've now got all of those declarations. So as well as adding get title var info, it added the 2 types and the constant as well. It also put the get title var info, the new function, in the same conditional compilation block as well. That's an option. You can have it separate or you can combine it in the same block. Another feature, if I go to the constants, is with constants, they often come in groups. You can see here, for example, we've got a whole load of constants, the ACT, CTX. If I click one of those, then VBExtras is clever enough to know that some of these are grouped. So it offers to add the other ones. So if I say yes, you see it selects all of the little group. And if I tick any one of them again, it says, do I want to remove them? So yes. But not only, that's not just a purely alphabetical thing. They are actually grouped, and VBExtras knows the groupings of the constants. So a good example to show you is the above normal priority class. This is in a group, but the group is not alphabetically in order. So if I say I want to select the other 5 in this group, and I'll say yes, you see that nothing else on the screen has been selected. But if I come here and show you which constants have actually now been selected, you'll see that as well as the above normal priority class, it's selected all the other items that fall into the priority class. And then I can add those as well if I want. One of the key challenges of working with Windows API declarations is not just getting the declaration right, but it's also getting the way that you use that declaration right. So as well as the actual declarations, VBExtras is aware of a number of examples. In total, at the moment, it knows about 356 examples that cover 658 functions. And if we show the example for get title var info, a number of the examples are online and it would open a web page for you, but a number of them are just on the device. They're stored within VBExtras. And you can see this one is such an example. It is on device. If I open it, I get a text document. If I copy all of the text and go back to the VBE, delete all of that, paste the example in, and I've now got not only the declaration, but I've got a full working example, or very nearly working example, of the code of showing me to use that declaration. Now, I say very nearly, it's not quite a working example. A number of the examples include a comment like this, saying that if you're not running in one particular application, you need to adjust it slightly. And this is because VBExtras is not specific to Access. It works with a good number of applications. And so what I need to do is just change that to be Access specific. And now I've got a proper working example. And if I run this, then you'll see down in the immediate window, the code has been run and we've got the results there. The next thing I want us to show you is using the F1 key to open the Microsoft documentation web pages. So if I put my cursor on the name of a function or type or enum or constant that is in the Windows, that is a Windows API declaration, and I press the F1 key, then the relevant web page will be open for me. The F1 key is often used because that is the help F1 key used in the VBE for other things. So the VBExtras just extends that for the Windows API. So I am now, believe me, pressing the F1 key. And what you'll see is you get the web page for get title var info. It doesn't just work for functions. Also, this is showing you for the type. and it works for enums and constants as well. Okay, the next thing to demonstrate is the enums to constants and the reverse of that as well. So again, I've selected a particular enum here, and what I can do if I use the menu here is that I can convert, as I say, constants to enum, or in this case, an enum to constants. It gives me a little warning here about certain information. I can make various settings here about how I want the constants to look. See there, we've now got, instead of a single enum, we've got a group of constants. The reverse, and to be honest, the thing I use much more, because in the Windows API, what you typically get is a whole load of constants that would be more handy to be an enum, is to convert this way, so that you are converting a group of constants to an enum. I select that again. I've got various options that I can choose, and there we go. We've got back to the enum. Time not very much longer. Okay, alternative window navigation keys. This came from the inspiration of this was a blog post by Mike Wolf, where he complained about the fact that the Control and G key navigates you from the code pane to the immediate window, but doesn't navigate you back. Well, it does now with VBA extras. If I press Control and G, I'm in the immediate window, and if I press Control and G again, I'm back in the code pane. I appreciate that's not so easy to see. I'll do it again. Now I'm in the immediate window. Now I'm back in the code pane. It's not only the Control and G shortcut that VBA extras is for. If I press Control and R, I move to the project window and back. F4 is the properties window and back. F2 is the object browser and back. Expand and contract selection. I'm going to do this really quick because I know I've got very little time left. So you can see I'm just pressing individual keystrokes here to expand and contract the selection. That's how that works. Copy as HTML. If I just copy the code and there's where it got. Paste it into Word, you just get black text, no formatting. The point of copy as HTML is that you can get all that formatting. You can choose the color options you want. You can choose the font that you want. Down here, you can decide whether you're going to paste the results into Word or into a web page. If you paste it into a web page, you can have a copy code button there. If I click OK, go back to Word and do paste special as HTML, and you can see I've got all the format in there. I think this is really useful for people who might be trainers and want to show the code looking like code. And also it's very useful if you have a blog, which I do, and my blog is here. So these blocks of code here have been created with this functionality. And you can see there you've got a little copy code button. If I click on that, then you can see that that's been copied. And I can go then and paste that wherever I want, or the readers of my blog can go and paste that wherever they want. So the last piece of new functionality I wanted to demonstrate was fixed case. Now, like with all of the functionality that VB Extras provides, it's providing you a quicker way of doing something that you could do longhand anyway. And it's very much the case with fixed case, but with VBA code, because obviously the way that the VBA works is that anything that's declared, everything globally gets changed case. You often end up with the wrong casing, and it's something that's been really frustrating and annoying. I like a quick way to be able to fix it. So if I find the thing that's got the wrong casing, put my cursor in it and select the fixed case option, then it identifies what I've selected. I can type the correct casing and click OK, and it's corrected it there. And it's not just corrected it there, you can see it's corrected it down here as well, and it actually corrects it globally throughout the project. Again, if I do it for this, you can see I can correct it to a good sentence. So that was all of the new functionality. If I've got one more minute, then I'll just very quickly show the some of the enhancements. So auto text has been given auto closing pairs. So for example, if I type a single speech mark, I get a pair. If I type an opening parenthesis, I get a pair, square brackets and braces. So it just automatically types this stuff for you. Equally, if I delete each of those, you see it's deleting the matching partner as well. The expansions, so I've declared a couple of variables just above. So if I do plus plus and then press enter, I get the expanded text to add one. If I do minus minus, no surprise. I do plus equals, then it allows me, it expands that and just allows me to type in whatever the number might have been that I wanted. And then you can do the same with or strings has an and equals option to do that. And in the last few seconds, I will show you opening Microsoft documentation web pages. This is the show all members dialog. I demonstrated it last time. If I want, once I've opened that dialog, the thing that's new about it is this, that it will open the Microsoft documentation web pages. And there you go. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. That was impressive. And in case you don't see it, there is a deluge of hearts and applause coming in from the audience.
Great. Thank you.